Zixathala pressed her 6 fingers against the cool metal of the observation deck, watching the small human vessel drift toward the docking bay. It appeared minuscule beside the colossal coalition ships that usually visited Serene Watch. Its hull, plain grey metal with simple markings, lacked the elegant curves and vibrant hues of proper galactic vessels. Another human delegation, Commander Vexel grumbled from behind her. Why waste time with these primitives? Zixathala remained silent. She had been studying humans for 3 months, ever since their limited membership in the Hegemony Coalition had been granted. The Council's curiosity, mostly, had driven the decision. Humans had somehow achieved faster-than-light travel, an impressive feat for such a young species. Yet, their technology lagged centuries behind even the weakest Coalition member. The human ship docked with a soft thud, vibrating through the station's hull. Coalition ships employed silent magnetic clamps, avoiding such noises. Everything about humans seemed rough-hewn and unrefined. Captain Jake Morrison, tall for a human with short brown hair and weary blue eyes, was the first through the airlock. He wore a plain blue uniform emblazoned with small metal badges. Nothing extravagant, no display of power or authority. "Ambassador Carter will be with us shortly, Captain Morrison," he announced to Zixathala, his accent peculiar. Humans spoke the common galactic language adequately, but their voices always seemed harsh compared to the melodious tones of most Coalition species. Ambassador Lisa Carter arrived a few minutes later. A middle-aged woman with grey streaks in her black hair. She smiled at Zixathala, revealing small white teeth. Humans always bared their teeth when joyful, a disturbing custom for other species, who considered teeth for sustenance, not social expression. "Thank you for meeting with us again, Ambassador Carter," Zixathala said. "We have some fresh proposals for scientific cooperation." The meeting took place in Conference Room 7, a small chamber with a round table and comfortable chairs. Dr. Alan Foster, the human cultural attaché, spread out data tablets, showcasing their latest research. By Coalition standards, the information was fundamental, yet promising. "Our scientists have made progress in quantum field manipulation," Foster explained, his hands gesturing animatedly, another strange human habit. "We believe we can enhance agricultural yields on desert worlds." Zixathala reviewed the data. The calculations were correct, but the applications seemed limited. Still, the findings might prove useful for some outer colonies. "This is intriguing work," she commented. "However, the power requirements appear substantial." "We're still learning," Captain Morrison admitted. "Our technology isn't as advanced as yours." "We understand this, but we're eager to learn from more experienced species." This was the most perplexing aspect of humans to Zixathala, their candid acknowledgement of weaknesses. Most species concealed limitations during diplomatic talks. They boasted accomplishments and downplayed difficulties. Humans seemed eager to highlight their shortcomings. "Tell me about your home world," Zixathala inquired during a lull in the technical discussions. "Earth, is it called?" Ambassador Carter's expression flickered. "Not sorrowful, exactly, but something akin to regret." "Earth is beautiful," she said. "Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. But it's complicated." "How so?" Dr. Foster and Captain Morrison exchanged glances, conveying a shared perspective Zixathala couldn't decipher. "We've experienced numerous cultures on Earth," Foster stated carefully. "Different nations and peoples. Sometimes we didn't get along well." "You mean you had conflicts?" "Yes," Captain Morrison replied gently. "We had conflicts. This wasn't unusual. Most species endured periods of internal conflict before achieving space travel. Even the hegemony itself emerged from the great wars that nearly obliterated 4 distinct civilizations. But something about their words suggested their conflicts held a unique context. "We learned from our mistakes," Foster quickly added. That's why we're so interested in joining the coalition. We seek a peaceful and cooperative environment. The rest of the meeting proceeded smoothly. The humans presented their proposals with careful politeness, requesting modest concessions. Permission for a research station in a neutral zone, access to basic medical technology, and the right to trade with coalition merchants. None threatened anyone or shifted the balance of power. After the humans departed, Zixathala penned her report. She assessed human technology as primitive yet progressing, their political system stable but unsophisticated. She acknowledged their enthusiasm for cooperation and their candid confession of technological limitations. Something still troubled her. It wasn't what the humans said, but what they hadn't said. This had been different in their descriptions of conflicts on Earth. Not shame, not regret, like other species' lamentations, but something more like experience. Zixathala consulted the Coalition Intelligence Service's human history files. The data was limited. Humans had only been in space for 50 years, with faster-than-light travel achieved just 15 years prior. Before that, they were confined to one world. The files documented human wars, commonplace. However, Zixathala found the timeline peculiar. Most species experience conflict, followed by peace before space travel, typically lasting a few centuries. According to records, humans engaged in wars for millennia, up to their departure. She noted in her report a request for more detailed historical information from the human delegation. Likely trivial, mere curiosity about an intriguing species. Nevertheless, her diplomatic career instilled confidence in her instincts. Outside, the stars shone with their usual cold light. The galaxy, protected by the coalition's strength and wisdom, enjoyed a period of peace. 7 advanced species collaborated, maintaining order and preventing conflict. Zixathala gazed at the empty docking bay. The humans were probably halfway back to their home territory, sharing news of a successful diplomatic session. She tried to dispel the perplexing feeling. Humans were underdeveloped, eager to learn, yet posed no threat. The Council's decision to accept them was sound. Still, she added a final note to the report. Recommend continued observation of human activity and enhanced cultural exchange to better comprehend their historical development. A prudent precaution. Knowledge, after all, was never harmful. The first distress signal arrived at 0347 station time. Zixathala was asleep when the alert klaxons blared through serene watch. She jolted from her rest pod, activating her personal communicator. Emergency session in the command center, the station commander announced. All senior staff report immediately. Zixathala grabbed her uniform and raced to the command center. Other coalition officers moved with equal urgency. Emergency alerts were rare. The galaxy had been peaceful for decades. The center buzzed with activity. Technicians worked at stations, while holographic displays showed star charts and communication logs. Commander Ralphie, hands flitting across various control panels, stood at the center. Attack on New Eden, he announced. Human colony world. Early reports implied orbital bombardment and ground invasion. Zixathala felt her blood run cold. New Eden, one of the newer human colonies, established just 5 years prior, was a peaceful farming world with about 2 million inhabitants. Who were attacking them? The Korath Empire. The dread name resonated. The Korath, savages ejected from coalition territory 3 years prior for systematic genocide on 6 worlds, infamous for torturing captives for amusement. How many ships? At least 50, Lieutenant Mork reported from his communications station. A full battle fleet. They'd positioned themselves strategically, striking the orbital defenses first. The human ships had no chance. Human defenses destroyed or scattered, Mordek reported. We're picking up distress calls. Individual ships fleeing. The planet was defenseless. Worse still, the Korath broadcast their actions on open channels, displaying the atrocities to every human in space. Images of Korath warriors dragging human families from their homes, execution squads lining up civilians, and children crying as their parents were shot filled the screens. The Korath intended to instill terror. At 800 hours, Commander Ryan Phillips of the Human Defense Fleet contacted Serene Watch. His face, scarred and desperate, appeared on the main screen. "We need help," he pleaded. "They're killing everyone there. Women, children, the elderly, people who have harmed no one. Please, you must send ships." Commander Ralphie responded unenthusiastically. "Commander Phillips, this matter requires Coalition Council approval. We cannot act militarily without authorization." "How long will that take?" Phillips asked. "The Council will convene as soon as all members are reachable, perhaps 48 hours. Phillips closed his eyes, a flicker of despair in his expression. 48 hours. What can the Korath do to a planet in 48 hours? He cut the transmission. Over the next day, further disturbing reports arrived. The Korath weren't simply executing humans. They were meticulously enacting public displays of violence, attempting to break the survivors' spirit. They established camps for public executions. These gruesome events were broadcast to human colonies across their territory. Sixfella, witnessing these broadcasts, felt a sickness in her stomach. She had seen warfare before, but nothing so deliberate and cruel. The Korath weren't fighting. They were putting on a show. The Coalition Council finally convened 36 hours after the attack began. Zixth Thala observed from the diplomatic gallery as representatives of all 7 member species appeared on the screens. The debate was formal and protracted. Council member Vexhala argued against intervention in conflicts involving non-member species. Rath suggested the humans were responsible for their plight by establishing colonies in dangerous regions. Dathon feared that military intervention would provoke the Korath to attack coalition worlds. Yilmata suggested the incident would teach the humans the harsh realities of galactic politics. Zixtala watched in horror as the galaxy's most powerful government debated the salvation of 2 million people from torture and death. Ambassador Lisa Carter, appearing frail from 2 days of ordeal, spoke for the human embassy. "Honored council members, please reconsider. These are innocent civilians who have done nothing to deserve this." Vextala replied, "Regrettable, certainly, but the coalition cannot be expected to protect every species from their poor decisions." Roth added, "Establishing colonies without adequate defenses demonstrates their naivete. Weak species either protect themselves or disappear. This is the natural order." Carter remained silent for a moment, then spoke calmly. "I understand. Humanity will withdraw our request for coalition assistance." "A wise decision," replied Yilmata. "Perhaps your species will be better prepared for galactic challenges." "Perhaps we will," Carter responded quietly. "Thank you for your time." The transmission ended. Every human diplomatic mission in coalition space packed up and left. They did not protest, complain, or demand anything. They simply left with polite farewells. Zixthala tried to contact Captain Morrison, but his ship was gone. Her attempts to contact other human contacts only yielded automated messages, announcing the temporary suspension of human diplomatic relations. That evening, she stood on the observation deck. The stars, cold and distant, held a chilling significance. Humans had sought help and were scorned. Intelligence reports revealed strange activity in human space. Vessels moved in organized but seemingly random patterns. Cargo ships, liners, and even private craft converged upon specific coordinates. Zixthala recognized a pattern. The humans were organizing something. Commander Ralphie dismissed her concerns, believing they were evacuating colonies. On New Eden, the Korath continued their systematic destruction. By the end of the first week, over 500,000 humans lay dead, the survivors enslaved. Cities lay in ruins, and farmland was contaminated. Broadcasts from New Eden gradually stopped. Human colonies silenced their communication arrays, and the few vessels Coalition monitors detected operated in stealth mode. Humanity appeared to hold its breath. Zixthala documented the events. Human species appears to have accepted defeat. Korath occupation of New Eden proceeding without resistance. 3 weeks after the fall of New Eden, the first Korath supply convoy vanished. Zixthala reviewed trade reports and discovered that a fleet of 12 Korath cargo ships, en route from the Zirian system to New Eden, had vanished somewhere between the two star systems. Ralphie dismissed this as a navigational issue. Sixth Fella suspected otherwise. The Korath were brutal but hardly inept. They had maintained supply routes for decades. She kept a watch for similar occurrences. 4 days later, a Korath listening post on the edge of New Eden's solar system went silent. All systems were operating normally. The 12-person crew was gone. Similar events followed. Disappearing supply convoys, communications satellite outages, and malfunctions at mining operations. Zixthala recognized a pattern. Someone was fighting back. She monitored human communications and was surprised by the results. Human ships weren't fleeing. They were moving with intent and purpose, their routes following an obscured pattern. Cargo ships that should have been evacuating were entering empty systems and lingering for days. Most disturbing, all human communication had disappeared. Zixthala found coded transmissions beyond Coalition's decryption capacity. She attempted contact with the human embassy, but got only an automated message. Similar frustrating results for other human contacts. It was as if the entire human race had suddenly ceased communication with the outer galaxy. Commander Ralphie remained unfazed. They're likely organizing refugee camps, he mused. Or perhaps they've abandoned space travel entirely and returned to their homeworld. Either way, it's not our concern. But Zixthala, seasoned in intelligence work, found the situation too easily dismissed. She commenced a deeper investigation into human activity. Utilizing every monitoring tool available at Serene Watch, she discovered patterns that challenged her assumptions about humanity. Cargo ships, previously appearing to move randomly, were following a meticulous plan. Rendezvousing at predetermined coordinates, transferring personnel and equipment, then dispersing to new locations. This logistical operation dwarfed even Zixthala's experience with the Coalition Navy, managing thousands of vessels. Significantly, the ships involved included more than just civilian craft. Hidden among cargo vessels and passenger liners were military ships entirely absent from Coalition databases. Sleek, dark-hulled vessels operating without transponder signals, designed for clandestine movement. Their origin remained a mystery. Coalition intelligence held detailed records of the human military, but Zixthala's sensor data revealed a fleet at least 10 times larger than anticipated. Seeking alternative insights, she scrutinized human personnel records. If evacuations were underway, records of departures from Coalition space should exist. Instead, the opposite was true. Humans who'd long resided in Coalition space were quietly returning to their own territory. Scientists from Coalition research facilities resigned and vanished. Human merchants, once prolific traders throughout the galaxy, closed their businesses and left. Even more perplexing, some departing humans possessed backgrounds contradicting their stated occupations. An anthropologist studying Coalition culture harbored advanced degrees in military engineering, for example. A trade representative possessed experience in psychological operations, a cultural exchange program. The emerging picture suggested a deeper, hitherto unrecognized level of human activity. A breakthrough arrived with the decryption of a fragmented human communication. A few words, extracted from a larger message, sent a chill down Zixathala's spine. The wolves are gathering. The message originated from Lieutenant Colonel Kate Murphy, a cultural liaison officer from the human military. While Murphy had seemed ordinary in diplomatic exchanges, this message hinted at a different reality. The term wolves and fangs were unfamiliar in context. Zixathala sought answers within human cultural databases, but found most resources inaccessible. Even basic historical records, once freely shared, were now secured by impenetrable security protocols. A final attempt to directly engage human authorities employed official coalition diplomatic channels. Identifying herself as a senior intelligence officer, yielded a response 12 hours later. A brief, formal message, transmitted from an unknown location and signed only as human authority, declared, "The Coalition Council has clarified its position regarding human affairs. Humanity is currently undergoing internal reorganization and is unavailable for diplomatic contact. We appreciate the Coalition's previous guidance and will contact you when ready to resume normal relations." The message's detached politeness masked a chilling confidence. These weren't the desperate humans pleading for aid weeks prior. Deeply unsettled, Zixathala reported her findings, noting unusual human activity, the disappearance of coalition assets, and a possible link to human activity, though without proof. Most critically, she urged a reconsideration of human capabilities. Intriguingly, Intelligence Headquarters responded within hours. Report noted, "Continue monitoring, but do not interfere with human activity unless a direct threat to coalition interests arises. Human species remains classified as low-priority concern." Zixathala pondered this message, gazing at the stars, realizing a potential miscalculation. Somewhere in the darkness, humans prepared something, and judging by the Korath losses, it would be unwelcome. The human counterattack emerged, not in explosions or fleet confrontations, but in silence. Routine communications began failing within the Korath network. Seemingly minor technical glitches, from communication satellites to relay stations, multiplied rapidly. Navigation systems malfunctioned. Life support systems randomly deactivated. Weapons systems unexpectedly armed or disengaged. Commander Ralphie attributed this to a cascading failure, a sophisticated technology overload. The Korath, he grumbled, were never strong with technology. Zixathala disagreed. The failures were too organized, too deliberate. Someone was behind this. Korath emergency communications conveyed frantic reports of malfunctioning equipment. Efforts to coordinate responses predictably crashed. The first Korath warship vanished near the New Eden system, swallowed by an asteroid field after a series of navigation failures. The second ship perished 2 days later, silenced by a catastrophic system failure. Rescue crews found nothing but empty hulls. Within a week, 12 Korath vessels were lost, silently and inexplicably decimated. Fascination gave way to terror as Zixathala saw systematic dismantlement of the Korath fleet, a method far beyond direct attack. The revelation occurred when a previously unseen human vessel emerged from cloaking just 50 kilometers from Serene Watch. A massive ship, easily twice the size of any previously observed human vessel, armed with weaponry unseen in Coalition databases. The ship identified itself as the Retribution, commanded by Admiral Jack Turner. The ship demanded, simply, to retrieve its people. Commander Ralphie's voice trembled as he confirmed the ship's presence. Turner, calm and logical, responded, "Commander, 3 weeks ago, 2 million human civilians were murdered while the Coalition debated proper procedures. The territorial agreements became irrelevant. Immediately after, more human vessels emerged from cloaking. Warships, support vessels, transports. Designs unrecognized in Coalition databases, the space around Serene Watch was now filled with a human fleet, massively exceeding Coalition estimates of human capability. Commander Routhey asked, "How many ships do they have?" Lieutenant Mork reported, "I count over 200, sir. And this is just what's visible." The Coalition's intelligence assessment of human capabilities and military size was profoundly flawed. Turner's final broadcast advised Coalition forces to maintain position and avoid interference. "We have no quarrel with the Coalition, but we will not tolerate attempts to hinder our mission." "What mission?" Commander Routhey inquired. Captain Morrison, his voice clear over the comms, replied, "The liberation of New Eden and the complete eradication of Korath forces in this sector." Morrison's ship, like Turner's, presented a stark contrast to the simpler craft Zixthala knew, a sleek, deadly war machine, adorned with sophisticated scanning arrays and weaponry. It dwarfed Coalition vessels. "What happened to the humans?" Zixthala queried on a private channel. "I knew the diplomats who sought peace." Morrison's face appeared on her screen. Gone was the weary man she'd met months prior. Instead, cold, calculating eyes stared back. "We still pursue peace," he stated. "But 3 weeks ago we learned a harsh truth. The galaxy values strength above all else. You cannot conquer the Korath. They command hundreds of ships, thousands of warriors." Morrison's voice was a quiet aside. Over the next 48 hours, Zixthala witnessed the humans' demonstration. The attack on the main Korath fleet was no traditional battle. It was a surgical operation. Human ships, appearing from unexpected angles, moved with surprising coordination, revealing a years-long preparation. Instead of a headlong charge, they moved like surgeons, precisely and devastatingly dismantling the Korath formation. Captain Maya Rodriguez, commanding the Vengeance, broadcast a chilling message before the assault. "You killed our children. Now we return the favor." What followed was a meticulously executed destruction. The humans didn't merely destroy Korath ships. They systematically eliminated the enemy's capacity to fight, to flee, or to summon aid. Communication arrays fell first, leaving Korath commanders unable to coordinate defenses. Then, enemy engines were disabled in mid-flight. Finally, life support systems were incapacitated. The Korath warriors, renowned for savage close-quarters combat, were never given the chance to fight. They perished in the cold void of space, isolated from their ships and comrades. The horrors culminated during the liberation of New Eden. Commander Scott Davis, formerly a minor intelligence officer, revealed a galaxy-altering strategy. Every Korath piece of equipment on the planet's surface instantaneously malfunctioned. Weapons discharged futilely, communication systems issued false commands, and transport vehicles careened wildly into obstacles. The Korath had exploited the planet's communication infrastructure, coordinating their occupation. But now, this network rebelled, broadcasting the enemy's position to the human forces descending from orbit. The extermination of the Korath on the surface was cold and efficient. Ground combat, a skill that spanned centuries, was employed to hunt every last enemy. No quarter was given, no prisoners taken. The surviving human colonists, having endured 3 weeks of Korath brutality, were evacuated with meticulous precision. Medical vessels provided care for the injured, while transport craft carried the traumatized survivors. The humans treated their own with the same efficiency they used to eliminate their foes. Within 72 hours, the core presence in the New Eden system was obliterated, as if they had never existed. Zixthala stared at her tactical displays, perplexed. A species once deemed primitive had accomplished the unthinkable, challenging even the full might of the Coalition. Admiral Turner's final broadcast, concise and chilling, declared, "Any species harming human civilians will face the consequences. We sought diplomacy, cooperation, and assistance. None worked. Now we return to what we do best. As the human fleet prepared to depart, Morrison addressed Zix Thala. "Tell your council what you have witnessed," he advised. "Not as a threat, but as information. We seek galactic community, peace, and cooperation. But we will no longer stand idly by while our people are murdered." "Who are you?" Zix Thala whispered. Morrison was silent for a moment. "We are a species that spent 10 millennia perfecting the art of killing each other," he said. "We traveled to the stars hoping to be different, but if the galaxy will not allow us peace, we will show them what we have learned in those 10,000 years." The human fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind empty space and the ominous remnants of the sector's feared military force. 2 weeks later, Dr. Susan Blake agreed to meet Zix Thala aboard the newly refurbished New Horizon. The vessel, larger and more heavily armed, exuded combat experience. Zix Thala requested the meeting through official channels, yet travelled alone, foregoing diplomatic protections and recording devices. She sought to understand the horrifying efficiency she had witnessed. Suspecting formal interviews wouldn't reveal the true answer, she sought answers beyond typical channels. Dr. Blake, a small, middle-aged human woman with kind, greying eyes, wore a simple, unadorned blue uniform. She embodied the historian and cultural specialist she claimed to be. "Thank you for meeting me," Zix Thala said. "I have questions about New Eden." "I'm certain you do," Blake replied softly. "But I believe your true questions concern humanity itself, what we truly are." Zix Thala studied Blake's features. Sadness and regret were visible, but also a quiet resignation. Coalition intelligence services spent months analyzing your culture, technology, and military. "How did we misunderstand you so profoundly?" prompted Zix Thala. Blake, after a moment, began to explain. "We presented diplomacy, peaceful intentions, and a desire for galactic community. Those were genuine, but you failed to examine our history. You saw primitive technology and assumed limited capabilities, overlooking the true extent of our past." Blake activated a display, revealing images that chilled Zix Thala to the core. "This is Earth's history," Blake explained. "For over 10 millennia, we waged wars against ourselves. Not for territory or resources, but for total, absolute destruction. The development of faster-than-light travel wasn't born of curiosity. Instead, it sprang from our desperate need to escape our self-inflicted wounds. Earth was dying from our conflicts. Our oceans were polluted. Our air was toxic. We had transformed continents into graveyards." Zix Thala saw images of human children being taught to fight, of families hiding in underground bunkers as cities burned. This was their reality, not an anomaly. Every human culture, every nation, every ideology refined the art of warfare. Not against aliens, but against one another. Blake then presented detailed tactical displays. The sophistication astonished even Zix Thala's trained eye. "When we approached the coalition, we sent diplomats and civilian scientists, not our military historians, strategic planners, nor weapons designers," she stated. "Our desire to be peaceful was real. We thought we could leave that past behind. But you couldn't," Blake concluded. "When the Korath attacked New Eden, they made a catastrophic error. They saw us as another species, expecting us to fight as others do, to send ships against ships. They anticipated an honest battle where their superior numbers would prevail. They didn't understand that humans have never fought honest battles. 10 millennia were spent learning to win against opponents every bit as cunning, ruthless, and desperate as ourselves. Every tactic deployed at New Eden was rooted in that brutal, self-imposed history. The implications of this hit Zix Thala hard. She dedicated her existence to studying warfare, not in classrooms, but in the crucible of her people's constant struggle. Every human culture, independently, had developed the same concepts: deception, misdirection, asymmetric warfare, psychological operations, total war. They weren't academic theories. They were the very fabric of their survival. Captain Tyler Brooks, bearing a data tablet and moving with the quiet competence of a professional soldier, joined the meeting. Younger than Morrison, his eyes held the same steely calculation Sykes Thaler recognized in human military figures. Dr. Blake is being understated, Brooks said. She's not just a historian. She designed half the psychological warfare campaign against the Korath. Sykes Thaler's horror deepened as she looked between the humans. You're all soldiers, we're all survivors, Dr. Blake corrected. Every human alive descended from those who endured 10,000 years of relentless conflict. Those unable to fight, adapt to new weapons and tactics, or adapt to new forms of warfare, failed to propagate their genes. Brooks activated his tablet, revealing statistical analyses that stunned Sykes Thaler. Coalition intelligence grossly underestimated the human military. Estimates placed the fleet at 50 vessels, but in reality, the humans possessed approximately 1,800. 6 decades of hidden ship construction, cloaked in deception for the sake of trust, were detailed. They had mastered camouflage and concealment, learned through millennia of conflict. Concealing a fleet from coalition sensors was not technically difficult. For months, the coalition had observed a carefully constructed facade, oblivious to the true scale of the human military's clandestine preparations. Every civilian ship was a potential warship, every human colony a hidden arms cache, every citizen an intelligence operative. You were planning to attack us, Brooker shook his head. We were planning to defend ourselves. We knew someone would test our resolve. They hoped to avoid this, but they prepared nonetheless. Why? Sykes Thaler pleaded. Why couldn't you just be peaceful? Dr. Blake's expression softened with sorrow. Because the galaxy wouldn't let us. We tried diplomacy, cooperation, cultural exchange. But when our people were murdered, the coalition ignored our pleas. You could have asked for help differently. We begged, Brooks interjected, his voice harsh. We fell to our knees, begging the galaxy's most powerful government to save 2 million innocent lives. And you told us to fend for ourselves. The merciless logic of this reality struck Sykes Thaler. Humans, desiring peace, had found only destruction. The galaxy had shown them that peaceful species are decimated, forcing them to default to what they knew. What happens now? She asked. Dr. Blake and Brooks exchanged a look, speaking a language Sykes Thaler couldn't comprehend. We return to our territory and continue building our civilization, Dr. Blake stated firmly. We will trade with anyone who wants to trade, cooperate on scientific projects, and be good neighbors. But never again will we make the mistake the Korath made. Our species is becoming aware of what happened at New Eden, Brooks added. Humans are no longer prey. Sykes Thaler reflected on the meticulous efficiency of the human attack, the complete annihilation of the enemy. Are you going to expand, conquer other species? Sykes Thaler asked. Why? Dr. Blake replied, genuinely puzzled. We have everything we need. We don't seek territory or resources. We simply want to be left alone to build a better future. But you have the capability, Sykes Thaler noted. Of course we do, Brooks acknowledged matter-of-factly. We could likely conquer half the galaxy, but conquest necessitates occupation. Occupation demands administration, which requires a respect for conquered peoples. We learned long ago that attacking us risks destruction. As Sykes Thaler prepared to leave the human vessel, Dr. Blake walked with her to the airlock. We never wanted any of this, Dr. Blake revealed gently. We came to the stars hoping to be different. We thought perhaps, far from Earth, we could abandon warfare, but you couldn't.